Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Guys on Gaffer. We are back with some more pre-season content tonight. It is episode 3 and David and Abhishek are with me as always, and so is Felix. How are we doing tonight?
Yeah, doing alright. It's gaining momentum. The season is gaining momentum. It's just right at the door, knocking at the door, so I cannot wait. I'm getting a little bit more excited day by day.
Nice, yeah, only 8 days to go. How's it going, David?
Yeah, it's good. It's like so many pods at the time. So yeah, I'm like almost struggling to keep like which pod was that, like. But
we have not done this intensity before.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
But I can also attest to Felix being well. You can see he's sleepy. So we'll see how active he will be tonight.
Be nice to see a bit more of him, but we don't want to disturb him too much. He looks quite happy there.
This might be the last Felix cam in a good while, so you that watch on YouTube, you'll have to cherish every moment.
We will do. We'll have to think of something to replace him in that bottom right-hand corner. We'll have to have a think about that. Anyway, so tonight is episode 3. You may be expecting some fan correspondent videos for tonight's episode. That is not going to be happening. We weren't able to get correspondence for every single team. I think we're probably left with like 7 or 8 without a team. So tonight we're just going to do six teams that we have no videos for, and we're just going to kind of go through them ourselves. And then on Sunday we will have a mixture of fan videos and kind of conversations between ourselves, ones where we don't have fan videos. I think hopefully be 50-50, something like that. So that is the plan for tonight, and then we'll also have one more podcast, probably the Tuesday night, which will be a rundown of our Game Week 1 drafts and thoughts on boosts. So we're recording on Thursday the 21st of July in the evening, so any news that comes out afterwards, bear that in mind. And that is basically it, apart from one big piece of news, which you've probably seen already. David, what's our big piece of news?
We have started to post polls for the Guys and Gaffer community team. So if you want to impact which players are selected for the community team, today we posted about forwards. Then I would suggest going to our Twitter profile and picking your options, because it's very close. I looked at the polls some minutes ago, and it's like some of the polls are like even. So definitely go and check that out, and we will post more polls to finish out the 15-man squad across the big weekend and closing up to the deadline. So Tom P_FF will keep giving us options, and we will post about them. So definitely keep a look on our Twitter page.
Amazing. And the idea of this team is that it will be taking on our own pod team that we will collectively come up with, hopefully this weekend or fairly soon, and also the EFL Fantasy Pod team. So it's going to be head-to-head scoring, and we'll probably look at the Classic League as well, but the head-to-head scoring will be 3 points for the team that has the highest score in a game week, 1 point for second place, 0 for third place, and we're going to just tot up those points across the season and see which podcast comes out on top and whether the community can beat either podcast or both. Should be good fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy interacting and making decisions across the season. So that's that. And without further ado, let's get into our first team of the day, and that is Coventry. Right, so Coventry are our first team, and the fixtures are pretty good, and a lot of us have got Coventry players in our drafts at the moment. Sunderland away, Rotherham at home, Millwall away, Wigan at home, Huddersfield at home. All three promoted teams, 2 of which are at home. Huddersfield's not a bad home game either. So it's a really good start for Coventry, and we're going to be looking at some options. Firstly, just a few ins and outs from the transfer window. So Casey Palmer has been signed from Bristol City, and the attacking midfielder coming in at a tidy $5.5 million in Gaffer. Jonathan Panzo, centre-back, has been signed from Forest. As far as I haven't seen him play, but he's fairly highly rated among Forest fans. so he could well be starting in the defence there. I've written Doyle. I can't remember his first name, but he's a centre back from the City Academy, and they've also signed a right back from Shrewsbury called Da Costa, who's been loaned back, so not really relevant to us. And there's not really been any significant transfers out from a Gaffer point of view, although Callum O'Hare has been linked with a move away. He was very heavily linked with Burnley, but there's been news broken tonight that that deal is off. So he's not going to Burnley. Whether he will remain at Coventry when the season starts or by the end of the transfer window, we will see. So that's the transfer window. They had a good season last season, Coventry. We're knocking on the doors of the playoffs for a little while. And the first thing for us to talk about is Viktor Gyökeres at 8 million. He's very much in the conversation for our Game Week 1 teams. And yeah, what do you guys think in terms of how he matches up with the likes of Vyman and the Swansea strikers? Do you favour him, and why?
I think it's really hard because last season he was really performing well above his standards, and he was scoring goals really every week, which was surprising to see. Judging the Coventry side before the start of the last season, we didn't rate that much, but after the third 5 to 6 games with him scoring loads of goals, he was a set and forget forward, along with Solanke and Beriton Diaz, especially in the first half of the season. So I think he is at a nice price. The Gaffer guys gave him a nice price of 8 million, considering whatever he performed. But this season, the forward options are very much in the balance. There are a lot of options. So if you have him, it's a nice choice. If you don't have him, it's also a nice choice because you have lots of options.
Yeah.
So judging from the fixtures point of view, it certainly is a good you can certainly take him. But with so many options, it's not for me as of now. But certainly if you want to have him, you can definitely have him in your team. And especially another reason is that I want to see what is the situation with Gordon, because last season they rotated quite a bit. So I want to see more from the Coventry manager, that who he prefers, before I make the decision of getting Gyökeres or Gordon. Because if Gordon gets to start, then he is 1.5 million cheaper. So that might be an enabler for us. So just I need to see who is more nailed between those two, and who is the preferred option for their manager. So
yeah, I think they're all very good points. I'd agree with everything you said there. And David, do you have any other thoughts to add?
Yeah, I pretty much agree as well. But yeah, I think it's a fair price, and considering he was so cheap last year and performed way over what was expected. But yeah, it's interesting. If we do we know like if both him and Gordon will play at the same time, or is it one or the other?
In my mind, they do sometimes play together, but not always. I'm not sure though. That's just my recollection of it. I'd have to check that.
yeah, I think last season we have seen that him starting as a centre forward and Gordon being on the flanks. But still, I don't know what the situation is there, because I was seeing some thing on Twitter yesterday or day before yesterday. Gordon is being preferred much more than Gyökeres, or the manager is thinking about playing two up top. So and there is not much of that detail, because due to the O'Hare news, whether he is going to Burnley or not, there has been a lot of fan clashes between Burnley and Coventry fans. So that news has died down substantially, but we have to see what their manager seems to think about both of the strikers. Did he is he willing to play both of them in an attacking lineup, or is he going to play one out of them? So preferably Gregorish is still favored because he is after all an international striker. He has played, I think, two international, but he's an international striker, so he might favor all him over Gordon. But with the handful of games Gordon played last season, I think it's a fair battle between them.
I'd say keep an eye out on Godden, but probably don't start with him because Victor's most likely favoured. But just one quick thing before we move on to midfielders. Basically, Victor's season kind of broke down into thirds last season, just looking back at his records. So between the start of the season and then early October, he went on his crazy goal-scoring run of how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goals in that time in 11 games. So he had his hot streak up until the start of October. That's like the first third of the season. Then he didn't score a single goal despite starting all but 2 games up until the 15th of January. So he went on a very barren run. So it's like streaky, then nothing. And then from the 15th of January, he kind of ticked along with the rest of his 17 goals. So 8 goals, and he kind of looked more normal, like he was scoring every few games, no braces at all. Only he got a goal and an assist against Sheffield United in a 4-1 win, but the rest of them is just single return and at fairly regular intervals every 3 to 4 games. So if we're looking at the kind of end of the season, he was quite consistent, and if he is consistent again, then that means he's probably a more reliable game at 1 pick. The fact that he was streaky means in the early part of the season makes me wonder, will he go on a hot streak, especially with those fixtures, or will we not see much of him? It's hard to tell. It's hard to call. But yeah, I just thought that might be some helpful context. Moving on then to the midfield. So we've already touched on O'Hare and the fact that he could go. I think 7 million is a good price if he stays, and I'd be tempted, although he was quite frustrating to own last season. Sometimes he did very well, sometimes he frustrated us. Would you look elsewhere in the midfield as well? Any other options you would consider?
Maybe Palmer, Casey Palmer at 5.5 is quite interesting, especially if he plays in the AMC role behind Victor and Gordon. If Coventry decides to play 2 up top with the one in the number 10 position, then he can be an option. I think he was at Cardiff last season.
Bristol City.
On loan.
Was he at Cardiff on loan? I don't know, but I know his parent club at least was Bristol City. In my head, he played for Bristol City, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think he might be another option if you don't want to have trouble owning O'Hare, because he's gonna give you like that, because he's like a Grealish type of player. He's gonna give you games when he looks wonderful, but he will also give you games where he will receive yellow cards for fun. So if you want to not have those things in your while watching the games, then certainly you can go for Palmer. I think he's 1.5 million cheaper, but preferably from Coventry, I think it's either O'Hare or no one as of now.
I don't hate Hamer at 6. He got 3 goals and 10 assists, but he is a bit more defensively minded, so it's hard to watch on him. But I don't hate it, and I don't love it either. I have considered him and had him in my very first draft. Let's very quickly touch on the defence. David, do you want to chat about Coventry defence?
Yeah, I think for me it's like one option from them. Even though I'm looking at the list now and I see a familiar name in McFadden, who is now not as cheap as last season.
Indeed.
I don't know if that makes him a non-pick or not, but the one I'm thinking most about is Bidwell. And mostly because I remember for season 1 he was like the Robertson basically of Gaffer. And he was like super expensive, but now he's 5.5, and he at least he starts. I don't know if he has the form that he used to have, but if he does, he certainly has the capability to be a a defender that gets forward a bit. I don't know if you have any info on how he's been playing in preseason.
No, I don't, to be honest. I don't know about you, Abhishek.
No.
But he should be nailed down in that spot.
Yeah, I think so. He's clearly, I think, like David mentioned it. If he can get his form back, then he will be a nice option at 5.5.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'd add on defence is keep an eye out on that right wing back spot and whether Todd Kane or Dabo nails down that spot. I think it's quite hard to tell who you'd pick. I think they're both very, very good right wing backs, and at 5 million could be very good value. It's just a watch and wait and see who plays for me. Anything else to add on Coventry? Should we move on to the next team?
No, I think we should move on. Yeah, we have covered all.
Brilliant. Hope that's been helpful for you guys. Let's see who's next.
Okay, next up is Hull City. Last season, I think in 2019 they were promoted to the championship. So last season, 2020-21 season. So 21-22 season was their first in the championship, and basically they finished 19th last season. So largely thanks to Keane Lewis Potter and George Honeyman, but both of them have earned big money moves to Premier League and fellow championship club. So the soul of Hull City has been taken out of there. I don't know how they will score goals now, or how they will at least try to earn points so that they can stay in the division. Looking at the transfers, they have done quite a few business. I think they have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players they have signed. The headline signing is Oscar Estupian. I think the Ecuadorian striker. He was signed from Vitoria. He is their main option as of now in terms of scoring goals, assisting goals. They have also done some neat little business in acquiring Seri from Fulham, Tufan from Fenerbahce, Figueiredo from Forest, and I think they have signed an Iranian striker, Sadia Manish from Fenerbahce. Sorry for butchering his name, but
I wouldn't be able to do any better than that.
I thought that was good. So yeah, maybe it's
So they have done these 4 players that I mentioned. They look like decent business on Hull's part, and I think they have also signed Baxter from Chelsea. Was
he on loan last season or something? And now he's been signed permanently, something like that. I'm not sure.
No, he's also signed in loan.
Oh, okay.
So he's not permanently signed.
Cool.
So yeah, these are the business that they have done. Outs, basically Kane Lewis Potter and Honeyman are the main players that are leaving Hull. As far as the rest of the outs, not much of an important player that you need to know, basically. So yeah, those are the transfer business that have been done by Hull this season so far. In terms of now, let's look at the fixtures. In terms of fixtures, they have a mixed bag of fixtures, especially in the first 6. Out of that 6 fixtures, 3 are okay, 3 are not okay, because they face West Brom, Burnley, and I think Norwich in game week 3, 4, 5 respectively. So in terms of that, I'm not suggesting you any Hull options. When their fixtures turn, especially after I think game week 7 onwards, 6 onwards, apart from Sheffield United, they face mid-table teams. So if they start well, and if we can look and if we can see that the likes of Estupian, Sadia Manish, they are looking good, and with Seri, Tufan supplying the assists, then certainly when the fixtures turn, we can look about it. But as of now, if you really want to own a Hull City player, then it's Estupian or no one. But I highly not recommend any of the Hull City players as of now.
Yeah. If you're a Hull City fan, knock yourself out. But like everyone else, I would we would say stay away.
Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree. Estupinian 6.5 is cheap, so he could be a good cheap striker at some point. But if they've lost their two most creative players, and they're going to have to sign someone to replace them, I just can't see them creating enough chances, and I'm in complete agreement with that. Wouldn't go near their defence, wouldn't go near anyone in their midfield at the moment. Fairly straightforward one, and their keepers are probably too expensive at 5 million, aren't they?
Yeah.
If they were 4.5, they would be a bit better, like in the maximum range. But like
Yeah.
5 is that 0.5 can do much elsewhere. So
Yeah, it's another one of those that you'd get them for Jeepers keepers potentially, because they could be quite good for saves. And I had Ingram for Jeepers keepers last season, and he did pretty well. But yeah, you wouldn't really go for them normally.
Yeah, basically what selling Lewis Potter and Honeyman has done, they scored I think 41 goals last season.
Really?
So basically 70% of your goals have been taken out. So it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But
you'll have to come
sorry.
to stupid number.
And they lost
Yeah,
Tom Eaves as well, who's one of their strikers. He's gone to Rotherham, but not that he
Yeah.
was as influential. But
So basically, Estupian would have to have a marathon of a season. I think 25 plus goals, so that he can at least save them from the relegation. Because I am seeing as of now, he is a Hull City.
Do you think there are like the relegation candidates? Like
Yeah, most definitely.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, especially with the fixtures. If they start well, then certainly they have a chance to improve their fate. Otherwise, sorry Hull City fans, but I can't see you not having a relegation fight. You may save yourself at the end of the season, but you're gonna have to be content with that.
it's definitely the sort of side that you can see just going on a really terrible run at some point in the season of 10, like no wins in 15 or something like that, and I just don't see them having the good run. Like they had some really good runs of form last season, as well as I think they did have one quite bad run, but also some really good runs. Will they get those good runs this season? I'm not sure. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I'm not saying I think they'll come in the bottom three. I just think they're in the mix. We all sorted then on Hull.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brilliant. Well, good luck to you, Hull. Hopefully you'll be able to avoid relegation. Let's see who's next.
Right. The next team we are talking about is Rotherham, and we are pretty agreed that this is a team that we are not as interested in as the other teams, but we'll still go through it and look at some options. And the first one, the one you can see in the picture, is the one I've looked a bit on, and his name is Ben Wiles. And he was one of the players that journalists and players in the team said was the best player in Rotherham last season. It's also said that he was a very integral player to the team, both going forward and backwards. And he's only 23, but he has 150 games for the team. He also got 10 goals. How many assists did he get again, Joe? Did you say?
Wiles, I think it's 8 goals, 7 assists in the league. Maybe it was 10 goals in all competitions. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think if there's one guy from Rotherham you'd maybe consider, it would be him. If they get a good run, or like a double game week, or a good run for like Budget Buster if you get that one. So he is, at least from a footballing perspective, he's a player that's important to Rotherham. We don't know if that will translate into fantasy points, but at least you now have one name that you can recognize in the team instead of no one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a... I think it's going to be a struggle for Rotherham again. They signed Tom Eaves, as we mentioned, from Hull, who's, I guess, going to lead the line. They lost Michael Smith and Freddie Ladapo. They've both signed for League One clubs. I think Smith signed for Sheffield Wednesday. Can't remember who Ladapo signed for, but it was a League One team, and they are their main goal scorers. They often play 4... I think they were playing 4-4-2.
Yeah, Ladapo signed for Ipswich.
Ipswich, cool. So Tommy Eaves and Connor Washington are the strikers they brought in. One or both of them is going to have to fill those shoes. I just can't see them doing particularly well. So I have nothing else to say on Rotherham. Avoid. Oh, fixtures. Swansea at home, Coventry away, Reading at home, Preston away, QPR away. A mixed bag, but I don't think fixtures matter too much with this team. Sorry, Rotherham fans. But it's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, I think the only thing we can say in terms of Gaffer Fantasy is if you want bench fillers, then their squad is dirt cheap. All the defenders are 4.5, all midfielders are, I think, 5.5 is their main. The main guy that David mentioned, Wiles, is 5.5. I think three of the are 5.5, and their strikers, likes of Washington and Eaves, are also 5.5. So they're dirt cheap. And in terms of cheaper keepers, then Johansson can be an option. He's a 4.5 goalkeeper. And
Season 1 memories. I mean, I think I did cheapest keepers him, but not in the triple game week, when a lot of people did. And he got, was it 50? I think the number in my head is 52. It was certainly more than 50 points.
Yeah. So that's a blast from the past, but he can be an option. And I think apart from that, I think Kioso that they signed from Luton.
Yeah.
He is a 4.5, I think, right wing back, or he can play at right back also. So if he gets going, then certainly he can be another option. Certainly, if you want to enable your squad. Apart from that, then literally no one. So yeah, those are that's it. Because if you are looking for bench fillers, then certainly go from Rotherham. But
maybe we'll end up with triple Rotherham at some point in the second half of the season after they've had 4 frozen pitches over the winter period and 4 postponed games. That's more season 1 memories. Everyone having Matt Cooks in their team for all the double game weeks.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is like they have double game week and then one of the games is postponed as well. So like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I will say though is like I think we said this before, but there's only one 4.5 forward, and his name is Kelly, and he's on this team.
Really?
But he's the only 4.5 forward in the game, which is crazy. But one thing to consider, if you ever want to go away from 3 strikers, not sure I will, but if there's a period of time when you want like 3 premium midfielders in the same team, if you want a starting striker that's like not the cheapest but still can get some points, and maybe like if you have a player that's not 100% nailed, but you have a sub that can get in, and maybe Eaves or Washington can be an option down the line, but certainly not from the start.
Yeah. Unlikely, but you never know what the season's going to throw at us. It could happen.
Yeah.
Cool. That wraps up Rotherham then, and they are the Yo-Yo Club. Is this the third promotion at the first time of asking? And they've always gone straight back down.
Hopefully this season they stay up.
We'll see. We'll see if they can break the streak. All right, let's move on to team number 4. Right, so our next team is another one of the promoted teams, and it's the team that came up through the League One playoffs, Sunderland. A very big team, a big club that definitely deserves to be back in the Championship after their pretty dismal fall down to League One, back-to-back relegations a few years ago now. Did it take them 4 seasons to get back up, I think? So their fixtures are Coventry at home, Bristol City away, QPR at home, Sheffield United away, Stoke away. Not not bad run of fixtures to start off the season for Sunderland. And there will be a few options to talk about, but let's just summarise a few things, especially as they're a promoted club. Some stats from last season will be useful. But first of all, their transfer window, they've signed a young Spurs winger called, not sure, I haven't written down his first name, but called Clark, a young centre-back called Alice from West Ham, Daniel Ballard, who was at Millwall. He's been signed from Arsenal, but he was at Millwall last season. He's a centre back, and a striker from Union Berlin called Dajuko, who I know nothing about. But and then a couple of key departures: Will Grigg and Aidan McGeady has left Sunderland and gone to Scotland.
This whole Will Grigg.
Will Grigg's gone, yeah.
I didn't even know he was in the team, and I got excited when I saw him on the list. Like, oh, he's Will Grigg there, and then 5 seconds later, said he's gone.
He's gone, yeah. So, yeah. Throwbacks to Euro 2016. The key man that we will come on to in a second is Stewart, who had 24 goals and 5 assists last season. He's the main man for them. Nathan Broadhead got 10 goals. He was on loan from Everton. He's an Everton youngster. He is, I think, still linked with Sunderland, but hasn't gone back at all. So he did quite well. And then the other 2 best returners were Embleton, 8 goals, 6 assists, and Alex Pritchard, 4 goals, 9 assists. Alex Neil is their manager, and a lot of people think they're going to do quite well. They're going to survive, maybe even finish comfortably mid-table. I think there are some people who think they'll finish top half as well, which I think is maybe a bit much, but we'll have to see. Let's talk about their main man first of all. Stewart has come in at 6.5. He's the only Sunderland forward on the game at the moment, so they probably need a bit of cover. But do you like him as an option? Do you think? I guess he's a wait and see, but do you think he can be a gaffer option, or do you think he'll be like a Clark Harris, who did very well in the Championship and then couldn't really replicate it? Did well in League One, couldn't quite replicate it in the Championship.
I think I quite like the options from Sunderland, to be honest. I quite like the prices of them, because they're nicely priced. And the likes of Stewart, especially I have my eye on Patrick Roberts. I think he came on loan from Man City in the second half of the season. Yes, in the second half of the season. But he certainly did enough impact. So they've signed him permanently. I think, they have signed him permanently. So I quite like him. And he's at 6 million price. So at the price of Honeyman. So hopefully he can replicate the form that Honeyman showed last season, which earned him his move. So I think for Sunderland to stay up, and as everyone is speaking about that, I think the likes of Clark, Roberts, and Stewart has to fire. These 3 has to fire. And also I think the likes of, they have signed from Union Berlin the player in who's the Jaku.
Just on him.
Yeah.
I saw on Transfermarkt when I was looking earlier, he's a striker. Like I said, I know nothing about him, so I could be off here. But he's listed as a 5 million midfielder on Gaffer. So if he does start and he's playing up front, is he out of position? ? I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Carry on, Abhishek.
Yeah, possibly an out of position player, but as like you, I haven't watched much of Union Berlin, so I can't tell anything about him. But he can be a nice little player, and especially I think what Sunderland basically has done, I think they have a lot of midfielders. So to your point that cover for, maybe they need to sign cover for their main man Ross Stewart, because if he gets injured, then who is going to play up top? So basically they need a cover for him. But from there, I think they will play 5-man or 4-man midfield with him up top. So maybe 3-5-2, 3-4-1 or 3-6-1, whatever they call, with because they have loads of midfielders, loads of attacking midfielders, loads of midfielders that can play well, and that can play as a forward as well. Because I think Patrick Roberts can play as a forward, Clark can play as a forward, and I think the Embleton can also play as a forward, so to support Ross Stewart. So I think what they really need is a cover, and especially I think you mentioned before we started recording, Sunderland shipped how many goals? 50 plus.
Oh yes. I was going to say that they. Yeah, conceded 53 goals, which is significantly more than Wigan and Rotherham. They were 44 and 33 respectively. In terms of goal scoring, they were the third highest goal scorers with 79 goals, after Wigan with 82, and Oxford United also got 82. Defensively maybe they're a no-go.
Yeah, that's why I think they have signed two centre backs, because they don't have trust in their original centre back pairing. So if they improve their defense, then certainly they will be a team to watch, because they have loads of flair players who can score goals and will really have an impact for Sunderland's season this season for their survival or whatever position they want. They are intended to finish. So yeah, that's all that I have to say about Sunderland, and I think a special mention to their goalkeepers. To their goalkeeper, I think Anthony Patterson. He's a young little goalkeeper. I think he needs to do a much more job, because conceding 50 plus goals and still they got through the playoffs. In the championship, if you concede 50 plus goals, you're in trouble. So certainly they need to shut up shop, especially at the back, to stay for survival. So, yeah, I think Patterson can get you some save points, especially the cheaper keepers. And I think he's what, 4.5. Yeah, he's also a 4.5, so he can be another bench filling option for us as well.
Just another word on Dajaku. I've just done a bit of sneaky googling. He was actually at Sunderland last season on loan. He had 22 appearances. I'm guessing quite a lot of those were off the bench, and he got 4 goals. So he's probably not one to look at, but they've signed him permanently now. So that's a bit more on him. David,
I think.
Okay, go
on. Before you move on to David, I think the main men are Clark, Ross Stewart, and Patrick Roberts. These are the main 3 options.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
David,
I'm not sure
quite a bit of time.
Sorry. Yes, David, you give your thoughts. It's about.
I'll take it quite a bit of time.
Can I speak? Yes. You mentioned a lot of players, and you said Embleton like in some words, but I think he could be good as well, because I didn't even know who he was until actually before we talked about this season, because I played on the back end of last season when the League One was still playing. After the other leagues, I started playing a game called Ultimate Champions, where you have some players from the League One teams, and this guy Embleton, he did very well on the last end of the season, and I'm just looking at his stats now. He has 8 goals and 6 assists in League One. And
were they mostly at the back end of the season?
It doesn't say much here, but I got the assumption that it was. Also, another thing that's interesting is he plays very many different positions, and he has a spread when it comes to which positions he gets goals from. So he has got goals from attacking midfield, central midfield, left midfield, and one from right winger. So he looks like a player that's not locked to one position in the 11, but he seems like a versatile player that can fill in for many positions. So I don't think he will be the player that drops out mostly, but that's just from looking at some very basic stats. So we would need a correspondent to say different, but from looking at it, he looks decent in that department at least.
I've seen him be mentioned a few times in the community. I'm not personally that interested, but he seems to be highly rated by some. I've just had a quick look. 4 of his returns came in the last 7 games, so to an extent he did do particularly well at the back end of the season. Anything anyone else would like to add on Sunderland?
I think we have pretty much covered it.
Cool. All right. We have now covered. Is that 4 teams we've covered already?
Yep.
Yes, it is. We will now move on to team number 5.
So next up is Watford, one of the relegated sides from last season from the Premier League, and they have done. I think they have sold more than they have signed. I think they have signed 5 players and they have sold loads of players. I think the likes of Ucho Hernandez, Zinkernagel has been sold. Andre Gray, Joshua King have been sold also.
Did you mention Zinkernagel?
Foster has left. Yeah, I've mentioned
Sorry.
first Zinkernagel has
Sorry, I wasn't listening. But I just felt we might need to dwell on that point a little bit because David still needs a chance to mourn.
I'm so salty. Like, why? Like, not from just a fancy point, but like he's gone up from the Championship to the Premier League 2 times now in 2 different clubs and still doesn't get to play. Like, what does he have to do?
Yeah.
So he's in Greece now, but I don't know. It's unfair.
Anyone in that Forest squad from last season is a Forest legend anyway. So he's at least a Forest legend, David. People do love him.
Yes,
people do love him.
That's true.
Carry on, Abhishek. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So,
Sorry for rudely interrupting.
Those are nothing. So far, so that's all the guys that have been left. I think Sissoko has also left. Messina has also left. In terms of transfers in, I think they've signed Luigi Gasper from Arsenal, Ray Menage from Barcelona, Scott Holding from Stockport, and they've recently signed Ben Hammer, Swansea City goalkeeper, and Isof Bao from Sporting Charleroi. So these are the 5 transfers that they have done. They've done some decent business. I think they signed Gasper from Arsenal, who is a nice little player. I think Menage from Barcelona. Both of them are academy players, but they are nice little players. In terms of fixtures, I think they have an okay round of fixtures. I think the first 2 fixtures are horrible because they face Sheffield United and West Brom. Those 2 fixtures are terrible to start with, but after that they have Burnley, which is also a tough fixture. The first 3 games are really tough. Next 3 games are really easy because they face Birmingham, Preston, and QPR. Although this season we can't say Preston to be an easier fixture because they have been signing good players. So let's see what. First of all, we have to see how Watford performs because they have a new manager, which I know nothing about him because I haven't seen anything about him. So he's new to us as well. So let's wait and watch. And if Dennis Ansar stays, then subsequently Watford becomes a dangerous side. But with the rumors bubbling around both of them leaving Watford, I don't think Watford will be that much of an impact. Although João Pedro can be a nice little option. So yeah, that's what I have to say. What do you guys think about Watford?
Firstly, predictions on when the Watford manager will be sacked, as they always are. I'm saying game week 15.
Game week 10.
Game week 10. Oh.
It will be very unlike of Watford if they don't sack a manager in the season. I think last season they sacked 3 times. So
it's just a curse being the Watford manager. You just know you're going there and you're not going to be there for very long. So you just hope for a decent payday and then be off on your way probably. Right, go on. Well, David, considering we didn't come to you for quite a while last time, would you like to give some of your thoughts on Watford before I go?
Yeah, I'm a bit interested in like the transfer business because they have sold, like in my eyes, Premier League level players that at least not like top tier, but like maybe mid to lower. And the players that got in are like probably very young and not that experienced. And I don't know if that helps the team, but then again I don't know too much about them. But I'm looking at the list now. They still have some of their players that did well last season. The defense is mostly the same. And they to be in the championship, those defenders are like solid, at least more than when they were in the Prem. I remember we had some Watford players the last time they were down in the championship. And they have some midfielders that are not that expensive, and at least compared to Sar, who's 11 million, which is definitely priced on potential in the case that he stays. But players like Kina or Sema or something, they could be okay. But compared to like the other players around the 7 mark, at least looking at it now and with the fixtures, I think it's an avoid for now. But definitely an option to maybe become more valuable across the season.
Yeah, I think for me, we've got to operate on the assumption that Dennis and Sarah are leaving. They're both linked with West Ham, and I think Dennis is linked with other places too. So yeah, I'm in agreement on João Pedro. I think he, at 9.5, he could be very, very good at some point. And I also think Ken's Sema, is it Sema or Sema? Anyway, I think 7 million is very cheap if we're talking a top championship sides winger. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. I think it's similar to West Brom in a way, where you can just use these first 3 fixtures to watch and see who looks the best option, especially in the midfield, and then look to bring them in. Maybe to a greater extent than West Brom. I think we in the West Brom segment a couple of videos ago we talked about doing something similar, although I think you'd be more likely to risk going with a West Brom midfielder than you would be with a Watford midfielder. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the midfielders. And defensively, I think the issue is rotation. It's always been an issue with them, and in the Championship when we had them before, it was similar. So like Ngakia and Femenia can both play right back, left back. Messina's left, to be fair, which means Danny Rose could be a better option. But yeah, I think I don't think anyone's particularly nailed. Maybe Femenia is the most nailed of the 4, but I'm sure we'll be going to Watford defence at some point in the season, but maybe not to start off with. And Backman at 6 is a fair price for me, but probably won't go there. So yeah, I think it's one of those teams that we can keep an eye out, and we will be moving to them at some point. I reckon they'll finish at least in the playoffs. I don't know about you two, with a chance of automatic promotion.
Yeah, I think they are in the running for it. And just one point to touch on about, like we often talk about just looking at the teams that we don't have in our own teams for some games. But beware if the teams that we are looking at for in that case are like having very difficult games to start with. We shouldn't just discard them because they didn't do well against Burnley and Norwich and Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Because even like teams like Watford, I think they will struggle against those teams because they are like prime candidates for promotion anyway.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be too discouraged if they like don't do as well as we think they might in the first 3 games because they are hard games. So yeah. Don't base your whole season view on Watford after those games. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's fixtures versus form. It's holding those 2 things in balance, isn't it? Yeah. Anything else to add? I think I don't have anything else to say on Watford. Abhishek?
Yeah, I think we all have everything to say. I think price-wise, they are okay because they have come down from the Premier League, so they are good to go. It's just that we don't know what team they are going to play because I don't have seen any report on their pre-season games. So I don't know what to see. So yeah, but from that I think we have covered all the bases. So let's move to the final team.
Yeah, let's see if they can continue their yo-yoing of going up and down, and see if the manager can last very long. Okay, one final team to go.
Right. our last club is Wigan Athletic, which also is a newly promoted team to the Championship. And on the transfer market, they have done some signings. Let me just find it. It's not much, but one signing that went through today was Ryan Niambe from Blackburn, which is a defender. And he's not been passed up on the game yet, but at least he has gone there. Yeah, other than that, they have some interesting players. The player I'm most interested in is maybe not just because of like how good he is as a football player or something, but I learned today that Wigan has a midfielder named Max Power, which is hilarious, and like I might even base my team name around it. You never know. But now that I said it, it's probably come to do it. So that was not a very good move. But anyway. We can have a look at some of their players. I can start with their forward. They have two forwards, but I can start with one of them. And one of them is Will Keane. And he is last year's Sky Bet League 1 Golden Boot holder with 26 goals in 48 appearances. And he's also was also named the Player of the Year at Wigan at 29 years old. So he has that to his name at least. Yeah, he must have been good if he got that many goals. Whether that translates to a higher division isn't always the case, but it's like a bit like with Stuart, I think. You see that he's got like over 20 goals in a lower league, and you'd think like, yeah, maybe he gets like 10 goals or something. But yeah,
just quickly, it's interesting that Keane has come in $500,000 cheaper than Stuart, even though he scored more goals. Interesting.
Yeah, and only was 0.5 more than the Rotherham strikers. So it's actually pretty cheap for a top scorer. It's maybe just because he plays for Wigan that we haven't talked about him more. Yeah, and just to quickly touch on the guy named Max Power. Amazing. He got some good returns as well. He got 3 goals and 12 assists in League 1 last season, and some more returns in the cups and playoffs. Not the playoffs, but the other ones. Yeah. Any other players you're looking at, guys?
Not really. One thing I'm just thinking is I'm looking at the forwards, and they've also got Josh McGuinness and Charlie Wyke. If I'm correct, I believe Wyke was injured at points of last season. But Charlie Wyke, I remember him banging in a load of goals for Sunderland in League 1. I think he's a pretty good striker, and I'm just wondering if there will be rotation in those forward spots if they're all fit. I would have thought Keane would be fairly nailed, but whether Lang would drop out or rotate, I don't know. I did note down how many goals Charlie Wyke got last season. I think it was it 10 in 20 appearances, something like that. I can't. Oh no, sorry, 5 in 15 appearances. Not quite that good, but not bad. In terms of other options, yeah, actually, I quite like Max Power, but I highly doubt I'd go with him. I think I'm wondering about Amos as one of. We're kind of lacking in good 4.5 keeper options, so I have thought about Amos. They didn't do as well as Rotherham for clean sheets last season, though. So, or rather for goals conceded. So I don't really know. So yeah, I don't think I'm really interested anywhere else. It's like the cheap strikers are interesting because there's like potentially good options, but also we know like the mid-price forwards are so good, so it's going to be hard to find a time to have one. We could. I think it'd be good for the game if one of these cheap strikers does really well.
Yeah.
To make things interesting.
We need more different strikers in the pool for those 3 spots, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a general Gaffer thing, isn't it? The more strikers in that forward pool, the more interesting. Yeah, I don't have anything more to add. Abhishek, do you?
Just just before we go for it's we didn't talk about fixtures.
Oh yes.
The first 5 fixtures for Wigan is Preston at home, Norwich away, Bristol at home, Coventry away, and Birmingham away. So, yeah, if we look at the ratings on the Gaffer website, it's a lot of green, but maybe we should tone that down a bit, considering the position is quite good actually, at least when it comes to defensive performances. But yeah, at least now you know what the fixtures are.
Agreed.
I think judging from those pictures, I think it's a bit early to say that they're going to be okay, but I do need to see them as we haven't seen that much of League One. But from my memory recollection of playing FIFA games, I think Max Power is the only guy that I'm interested about, and a little bit about Wilkin because he is an ex-Man United player, so I kind of know about him. Hopefully, he scores goals like that he did in League One. So, apart from that, I don't think, and also ex-Man United Ben Amos. So, Amos can be a nice little cheaper keeper option because of his save points. Because I don't think Wigan will be that good defensively.
Yeah.
And as far as options are concerned, it's either Max Power or Wilkin or no one. So yeah, I quite like Max Power from FIFA games because I used to own him quite a lot, and he used to play this quite a bit of work for me in his loads of FIFA career games. So I kind of like him. So hopefully he does well this season in the championship.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything noticeable in terms of the defenders and in terms of like assists last season. So there's nothing that stood out to me. So they're probably an avoid, as we've talked about. Yeah, that probably wraps it up, right? Any last thoughts on Wigan?
No.
I don't think they are like in such a big trouble as the other more promoted sides like Rotherham. I think without knowing everything, I'm more hopeful for them than the other sides we're talking about today.
They make me think of Hull last season. Like, probably good enough to stay up.
You would think so.
We'll see.
They are an old Premier League team, so.
Yeah, I hope so. I have some quite good memories. I've been to quite a few Wigan matches, like in my childhood when they were in the Premier League, because I had friends at primary school who had Wigan season tickets. So I've been to quite a few Wigan Everton games where I've been sat in the home fans, and Everton have won, and I've had to keep quiet. So I do have good memories of going to watch Wigan back in the day.
I mean, they won the FA Cup.
They did.
I think in 2008 or 9.
I think it was after that. I want to say 2012, but I might be wrong. It's under Roberto Martinez, and then he came to Everton shortly after.
Yeah, especially in Wigan, Roberto Martinez became the manager that he is now, especially in international level and for Everton. I think the likes. So
they won it and got relegated. Sorry, they won it and got relegated the same season, and then Martinez came to us. Carry on. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I think speaking of old Wigan players, I think Al Habsi used to be Wigan's goalkeeper when they were in the Premier League.
Oh yeah.
A lot of old memories. So hopefully they can stay in the championship and possibly maybe someday in the Premier League we can see them.
Yeah, it'd be
nice.
Be good to see. Yeah. Although Roberto Martinez had one really good season with Everton, where he took us to the Europa League, a 5th place finish, knocked on the door of Champions League, and then was terrible after that.
Largely thanks to Lukaku.
No, it wasn't really him. It was just Martinez. Martinez teams don't generally prioritise defending.
The one that they finished in the Europa League spot, I think, earned that 75 million move to Man United, I think, for Lukaku.
Yeah, he was with us a couple more seasons though, under Koeman and stuff. But yeah, he certainly emerged at Everton in that season. That's for sure. He was very good for us then. and we never really replaced him even till now. It's not bad.
Hopefully, hopefully DCL performs well this season. Hopefully his injury issues are behind him.
We'll see.
Fingers
Anyway,
crossed. Yeah.
we digress from
This is
Gaffer.
Yeah, this is not a Premier League podcast.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that wraps up part 3, and then like I said, we'll be recording part 4 on Sunday, which will have some videos, some non-videos. We've actually had some notes come through from a couple of people who aren't recording videos but who are fans and that we can look at. So that's the plan. And before we wrap up, there's just one other thing to mention. David, you were going to talk about?
Yeah, as other pods probably are going to do this time of pre-season, we are also planning on doing a mini league for our podcast, and we've talked about amongst ourselves like the last couple of days of what we should name this mini league. But as we have had a new guest / host on this pod, we thought we should have something Felix themed. So without further ado, we can present to you the Felix K-Line Cup, which will be our mini league this season. And we will post about this and also give you the password, which I'm sure will be the guys on Gaffer, probably with capital letters on the guys on Gaffer. And but if that's not correct, you will know on Twitter. But we will have custom codes, so it will be easy to join our league. Yeah, and also I have also thought about a prize for this competition. And as you've probably seen, we have had quite a bit of a glow up on this pod the last couple of weeks. And
Well done, David. Well done, David.
And I've gotten a bit more into like actually doing editing that's not like in Paint. So I thought maybe the prize could be making the winner a Twitter header, like the picture that's over their info and the profile picture. So if you want that, you have to go into our league.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Win it.
And as you can all see, David does wonderful graphics, and he will do a great job with your header. Yeah. So yeah, great incentives to win there. Amazing. So that is everything. Thank you very much for listening and interacting. I have noticed that there's been lots of positivity surrounding the podcast so far, so we really do appreciate that. It spurs us on to do more, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of our content throughout the season. And all that remains to say is goodbye and see you next time. So it's a goodbye from me.
Bra.
Namaste from me.